Is it possible to summarize everything in a single graph? No, but I tried it anyway. Here is how AMD stacks up to Intel, using current pricing based on what I can see online. So it'll be approximate, but with good intentions. What does this mean for you? It means glorious competition at every price segment, and one of the better times in recent memory if you're looking to buy a new processor, which is a good thing for you. However, on the whole, I would say that Intel is more appealing than AMD right now, but of course that's grossly oversimplifying things as well. So this video will focus on these 6 new AMD processors, which finally address the budget market, which is an area that AMD has neglected in recent years. To summarise the buying situation, if you're buying a decent new PC, or are looking to build a new budget gaming one, then Intel is the way to go since their processors are fast across the board, and because their motherboards support newer standards which should future-proof them a lot better. Even the cheapest 12100 is an excellent gaming choice. Though this being 2022, I feel you should try and stretch for a 6-core instead. Intel's 12000 series has been so good, in fact, that AMD's 5000 series really didn't look that appealing until its recent price drops. Because with the Ryzen 5000 series initial launch, AMD didn't even release any budget 5000 series processors. But all this changed recently when they finally dropped their prices and launched these 6 cheaper processors, which nicely span every price segment between $100 and $300. But not all of them are created equally, and I'll be talking you through them in this video, because they're not enough to help AMD to definitively reclaim the budget crown, but they do certainly have purposes which I'll be going through in this video, and this primarily applies to people already on the AM4 platform. If you have a Ryzen 1000, 2000 or even a 3000 series of processor, then these new processors are for you, since you can just swap your old one out for one of these new ones in order to breathe more life into your system. And it means that you don't have to spend the money on a new motherboard. Swapping an older Ryzen processor out for a new 5600 or 5700X will still net you a significant performance boost, even if it isn't quite up to the speeds of Intel's latest. So in other words, these new Ryzen processors are a cheap way to modernize existing AM4 based systems. And there are other use cases I can see for them as well, which all stem from the AM4 motherboard standard's remarkably long lifespan, which I feel I have to explain to you first. So it isn't uncommon for motherboards to only support 1 or 2 generations of processor. It means that later on, if you try to upgrade your old PC, then you're limited to the same old processor lineup that was around when you bought your PC in the first place. But the AM4 standard has been around for 5 years now, and has spanned 4 generations of Ryzen processor. So this has provided great upgrade opportunities, especially for owners of the first Ryzen generations. However, it has also caused exotic problems. There are now so many processors for this standard that some motherboards don't have enough memory to recognise all of them, without first requiring an update of some sort, which can get fiddly. If I was going to buy an AM4 motherboard, I would certainly Google it first just to check its compatibility, just in case I have to go through the hassle of installing a temporary CPU to get it to boot in the first place to let me upgrade the BIOS to a newer standard before I can use a newer processor in it. But at the same time, at least the option's there to do this, unlike other motherboards which require scrapping the moment you'd want a new processor. So with this in mind, the other benefit of AM4 that I can see is that some of the motherboards for it are now really cheap. So if you don't care about having the latest and greatest performance or anything like that, then you can get a budget motherboard and slap a Ryzen 4600G into it, and it will serve as an ultra low budget 12-thread rendering machine, or streaming PC or something like that. And you know, it is still Zen 2, it's not like it can't game. It just can't do it as fast as the latest processors can. Let's take a look at these 6 new processors. I'll start from the top, the 5600 and 5700X. These are definitely the most attractive new products from these lineups, and are processors which should have come out when the 5000 series was first released. But because this didn't happen, their impact on the market has been lessened, and AMD has eroded on their goodwill by neglecting the budget market for this long. Why did this happen? Why didn't these 2 processors come out alongside the 5600X and 5800X, as is what happened with earlier generations of Ryzen? In short, it was greed. In not so short, AMD's 5000 series definitively reclaimed the performance crown, and not wanting to undermine their Halo products with cheaper and similarly performing processors, AMD intentionally withheld these cheaper options until competition from Intel heated up. But then, even when competition did come, AMD still refused to address the budget market, instead leaving it to the older generations of Ryzen to plug the gap. The 3600 remained a decent 6-core option, but below that, things were either unobtainable or based on even older technology still. Meanwhile, Intel was quickly becoming the budget king. The 10000 series was already a decent lineup, and the 11000 series, despite its troubled development and high power consumption, redeemed itself by providing fast 4 and 6-core processors at lower prices than the Ryzen 5000 series could, making it the obvious choice for people who wanted the best value for money. And Intel's 12000 series has only improved on it further still, by reclaiming the performance crown and by offering even more for even less. So with this in mind, I am astonished that it has taken this long for AMD to counter, in the form of price cuts and new products. With all that said, let's put the past behind us and take a look at the current situation. If you're already on a Ryzen system, then you should look no lower than the 5600 if you're looking for a worthy upgrade, because this 6-core processor will handily beat older generations of Ryzen for single-core performance and should perform similarly to older 8-core Ryzens for multitasking. Which side it ends up falling on depends on the generation you're comparing it against. The 5700X costs a bit more, but it is a good 8-core processor, which should last you quite a while. And of course the 5900X and beyond are great should you need even more cores than that. But it's the 5800X3D which is the most interesting product, simply because it fills a very particular niche, being AMD's best performing gaming processor to date. So again, you probably wouldn't opt for this if you were buying a new system. An Intel 12000 series would be a more sensible purchase for most people, just because it's a better all-rounder and is available at various price points. But what the 5800X3D excels at is if you're on AM4 already and just want to future-proof it as much as you can. Maybe you're a few generations behind and feel like you're missing out on cutting-edge gaming performance. Or perhaps you're otherwise very happy with your system and just want a quick and easy upgrade. And the 5800X3D will do exactly that, and right now will perform similarly to Intel's best. So I respect this processor, even if I would personally sacrifice a bit of single-core performance in exchange for more cores if I was going to spend this much on a processor. So these are the most viable options for people already on the AM4 platform. The remaining 4 processors I'll be covering come with some surprising compromises. The first is reduced cache, which is an unusual way to cripple performance, particularly in gaming. And the second compromise is that they're all limited to PCIe 3 support. In other words, it makes these budget AMD processors a bad choice for budget gaming builds, especially if you're using AMD's 6500 XT graphics card, which I believe is like the only one to currently be severely bottlenecked by PCIe 3. So this is bizarre. If you're looking to build an ultra budget gaming PC, you'd use AMD's 6500 XT, but you'd have to avoid AMD's processors and opt for Intel's 12100 instead. It means that these 4 processors are unsuitable for gaming. I mean, they can still do it, but you can get better performance for less money elsewhere. So the Ryzen 5500 sits in an awkward spot, as it's the most expensive new processor that's still got these horrible limitations. That's because it's a 5600G, but without the built-in graphics, which puts its performance roughly halfway between proper Ryzen 3000 and 5000 series of processors. In short, the Ryzen 5500 is priced in a no man's land, and you'd be better off spending a bit more or a bit less. So now we get onto the Ryzen 4000 processors, which aren't even Zen 3. They're based on Zen 2, which is the same as the Ryzen 3000 series was. And thanks to their reduced cache, in games they're as slow as a Ryzen 2000 series of processor. Oh no! So this greatly limits what they're good for. They're a terrible choice for new builds, and not really worth upgrading to if you already have an older Ryzen system. So really, all these new processors are good for is if you're trying to build a cheap media PC for streaming or for a spot of rendering, and you want to spend as little as absolutely possible. But how low should you go? Starting from the bottom, I think we can rule the 4100 out. I want to stress that this thing has been out for several weeks already. It's been given a chance, and yet there still aren't any reviews online of it. Ominous indeed. Given how the others in this lineup perform though, and looking at how significantly this one has been cut down further still, I don't think this processor is worth it for anything other than for web browsing. And it's not like the 4100 can even do web browsing on its own, since it doesn't even come with graphics. What a disastrous oversight. Had it been an APU, it would at least have had a purpose, being the cheapest new APU you could get. But since it doesn't even do that, I fail to see a use case for this processor. It looks to be a worthy follow-up to the Bulldozer 4100, which isn't a good thing. Avoid it. So that leaves these two. Now it's odd to see the 4600G here, since this processor has already been out for 2 years. It's just that now you can buy it yourself, rather than it only being available in pre-built PCs. Or can you? Because just like the 4100, I'm yet to see the 4600G in stock anywhere, and again, reviews for it online are scarce. Why? If these had been in stock, then at least they'd serve as being cheap processors in an unused, available state. But to do this, they first have to be available. So provided this does eventually become a thing, don't expect it to be fast, but it will be a processor and graphics card rolled into one. So at least it has a reason to exist, being the cheapest 6-core, 12-threaded processor you can get that also has enough graphics power to run low-end games. Not that exciting, but it's there. Well, actually it isn't, yet. And that leaves just the Ryzen 4500, which has had scathing reviews. It doesn't come with graphics, meaning that you'll have to pair it with a graphics card, and with only 11 megabytes of cache, it actually performs worse than the Ryzen 3600 does. In games, it's as slow as a Ryzen 2600. So who is this processor for? And I was rather horrified to realize that it's me. Or rather, a very poor version of me, who happens to already have a decent graphics card, but no processor or motherboard. Because if you pair the 4500 up with a cheap AM4 motherboard, this is the cheapest way to get a 6-core, 12-threaded system. It's not a fast one, but it does beat competing 4-core options in highly multi-threaded workloads. So as somebody who spends hours and hours and hours encoding videos, I could benefit from that. Add to that my love of gaming at high resolutions, and its diminished gaming performance doesn't matter so much as if I was using a low resolution screen. And yet, even as a perfect use case for this processor, I'd still probably opt for this 12100F Mambo combo instead, simply to avoid the 4500's gaming pitfalls. So in short, I would not recommend the Ryzen 4000 series for people building a new main rig, but they do exist as extremely cheap options for people wanting to build a second backup media PC or something like that, especially if you already have a graphics card of some sort. That being said, if you can find a second-hand Ryzen 3600 for the same price, then it will blow these out of the water. The Ryzen 5000 series of processors have more reason to exist. The 5500 is disappointingly compromised, but the 5600 and 5700X are the processors that I kind of hoped would have been available at release, because they would have been great alternatives to Intel's 10000 and 11000 series. But since they weren't available back then, and because Intel's 12000 series is now out and is generally superior, these processors' reasons for existing has been limited to simply being an upgrade option for existing Ryzen owners. So I can't say these have been exciting, but they do at least fill price points that had no AMD option available before, and they will help to keep the price of the second-hand market down. For example, when my 2200G failed recently, luckily I had a 1500X to take its place, but had I not, my options were dire. The 3400G had its price inflated, and I could find nothing in the sub £150 price bracket without opting for a risky, used 4-core processor of some kind. So compared with that, the 4500 looks very attractive, and the 4600G, a worthy 6-core version of my old APU. So I just see these 4000 series of processors as being like a reliable alternative to a pathetic second-hand market right now. Plus, you can get 6 cores for under $150 again. That's nice. But don't get me wrong, it's pretty clear that Intel are the best option for most people right now, and these new Ryzen processors are just a last gesture of goodwill for existing users of the AM4 platform. If you're on Ryzen already and need an upgrade, then get the 5600 or the 5800X3D for the best gaming performance available on the platform. If you need a new PC though, go for Intel. And if you can wait, then Zen 4 may be worth waiting for.